Welcome to the CG Pro podcast. This is episode 86, and today we have Fernando, who is the CEO of VOLINGA AI, and I'm going to bring Fernando in to say hi. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can hear more and find more out about CG Pro from our website, becomecgpro.com. We have a open day coming up very shortly, and you can come and join us, ask questions, and a live Zoom call. And Fernando, thank you so much for joining us today on today's episode of the CG Pro podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
You bet. Well, I know you've done a lot of things, and you've created a really amazing suite of products and tools to help in the Gaussian splat world of Valinga. But how did you get here? What did you start out doing? And were there some particularly? I love hearing about if there was anything kind of early in life that made you consider your choice of direction, if you like, and what you were curious about and what you followed.
Well, I like to think that my path until I arrived here was kind of a series of different coincidences. Nothing was planned at all. And so I have a complete technical background. I studied electrical engineering at university. And back in that time, I mean, I knew I liked the technical side, but I also like, things that are not easy. And I didn't want to join a big company. So I started working as an intern in a startup. I finally getting up there. So anyway, I joined a startup, as I was saying, and then this startup got acquired by a larger company. And well, really fast forward, this larger company decided to create a research center where I started doing some research on 3D, 3D and AI, the intersection between these two fields. And these kind of things that happens by coincidence and spark. There was someone at the marketing department on that of the company at that time that has worked on the film industry. And when he saw what we were doing on that time with NERFs, with neural evidence field, he told us, me and the team, hey, this could change the way we shoot backgrounds, we capture locations. Why don't you start thinking about using this research into filmmaking? On that time, it was 2021. Mandalorian was everywhere. ICVFX, virtual production, and then we said, okay, why don't we try to make Nerf or to render Nerf inside Unreal? What can we lose? So we tried, just let's say as a side project inside a larger research project, and to our surprise, we were the first one to ever do that, and we did a small LinkedIn post, and suddenly we got a lot of interest from different people, especially from the media entertainment, saying that they wanted to try that, even though it was a really, let's say, stupid demo with the Lego bulldozer that is usually tried. Well, that was useful for nerfs on a table in Unreal. Everyone just got really excited, and that's the moment where we decided, okay, maybe we should try to make this not just a toy, but also a product that people can use in the day-to-day and that can actually help the way media is produced. So yeah, that's how 2 years ago we started at Valinga. Since then, it has been a really transforming journey. As I said, I was from a pure technical background. I started joining conversations in the filmmaking community, in the media entertainment industry, getting to know how everything works here. So a bit hectic, especially because this 2 last years probably was not the most relaxed time in the industry.
Could say that,
But
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun, and also people in the industry were very welcoming, and yeah, here we are now.
Amazing. So you studied electronic engineering, was it? Electrical engineering?
That's it. Electrical and electronic, yeah.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, and I studied computer science and got into the visual effects industry eventually, but was a software engineer, and many of my friends we were in the engineering department, so there was lots of people in the electronic and
Yeah.
electrical engineering, and some of the talks that I've done lately because of AI go back through kind of the history of computer science, which is bound
Mm.
to electrical and electronic engineering. Inherently, that was the only way that you could program in the very beginning was
Yeah.
through electronic engineering, and since it's now here we are at this point where you could the theory is you can just talk to the computer, and you don't have to even code, although we'll probably get more into that. But how
Sure.
did you start with being the engineer effectively with this project?
So you mean on?
Did you start by kind of making it yourself and as a kind of
Okay.
prototype?
So we started, as I said, we started doing some research on that. Our main goal was to make it run real time. For the
Yeah.
people that are listening to us, if they are familiar with 3D Gaussian splatting, it belongs to a larger family of algorithms that are called radiance field, and NERF was the first of, and probably the most famous until 2 years of them. So when NERF first came out, it took like, I don't know, 15 seconds, 50 seconds, 1 minute to render one single frame at 1080. So our time then, our goal then was to make that real time. I started on that side in the research, especially going low level, optimizing how everything runs on GPU, etc. And then, as I said, as a small side project, we said, okay, now if we want to make this run real time, why don't we, uh, make a plugin for Unreal, which is a real time engine, a 3D engine. So basically, as I said, we started on optimizations on CPU, on GPU, and then I started touching a little bit on Unreal. It was only a team of three then, playing a little bit with it. We made it happen with some of external help, and then fast forward to now. Now we have our own team dedicated to Unreal development, Unreal plugin development, and 3D graphics. But back on that time, it was just, as you said, a small prototype and having fun with all this technology, and also very excited thinking on what it could become.
Amazing. What and can you tell me that moment about how it felt, kind of discovering something like that, like a new
At,
possibility?
at first, it was because, when we started doing that, it was like, okay, let's aim for. I remember we started the development of the plugin and the real-time engine like in January, and the goal was September to have it by September. And we said, okay, by September, what are the odds of someone else having that already done? Well, like probably, I don't know, 80% people are gonna think about this the same way we're doing that. But as we were progressing and we were seeing no people, announcing, hey, we have an Unreal plugin, an Unreal plugin, etc., you kind of get excited, but also nervous. It's like this kind of, we are so close, but what if there is someone in the, hidden that is just about to release? And then the moment we did that, we were very proud. Like the team, I remember that because we had some travels on Unreal, and then actually coincided with my vacation. And then when I got back, I got one of the engineers saying, "Look what we have done," and it was like, "Oh, that's amazing! We solved this." I remember being very happy, very proud of the team. But those I wasn't expecting that much, interest, because kind of it was like Nerf is a geek thing and people are not looking at it, or that was we thought. But when we did that, it was like, okay, this is larger than we thought, this is bigger than we thought. So yeah, it was, very happy in that moment, and also we can always say that thing that, hey, we were the first, we were the first in the world in doing something. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is. In this case, it was integrating Nerf into Unreal Engine, but that's gonna stay forever. So we're actually very proud of it. Actually, from that team, it's 61 people. Everyone else is still at Valinga, so we can, that's still almost all, the whole team is still there. So yeah,
great.
I would say now we are very proud of it.
Amazing. And yeah, there's not that many times in life that you get to say that you did something the first time or the best or
Yeah.
whatever. It's an interesting moment. Um, what did when you were kind of discovering it, if you like, or yourself discovering it for the first time, was there something about it, like something about it that gave you a clue that it was something that you should pour your whole sort of professional effort and energy into? Because there's a lot of things you can do in life. There's a lot of
Yeah.
possibilities, and I think sometimes it's overwhelming for people to think, or should I go and become an actor, or should I be an engineer, or should I be an influencer, or what should I do with my time? Was there something about this that really made it like obvious to you that like this is what I absolutely have to do right now?
Yeah.
Was it like, and it could be a thought or a feeling,
Mhm.
ideally a feeling, because I feel like that's where most of that signal comes from. But
Yeah, definitely. I think so. As I said, I always enjoy the technical side, and I always try to do, but I always try to do, difficult things, new things, something that people have not tried before. And then that's kind of the rational part of what we were doing. Also, there was a bit of emotional part of, hey, I don't come from the filmmaking industry, but I do like movies. I do like, telling stories. So if this can empower it, it makes me feel good. So also I guess there was something. If you think about what are the other alternatives to 3D, like photogrammetry, that has been there for almost 30 years now, it's like, okay, there is something that has not changed in 30 years. This should be changed. I don't know who has to do that. It can be me, it can be anyone else. But I think this should be changed, and there should be better solution. That's something that we figured out 30 years ago. So I think that probably this ambitious of making things better and faster is kind of what is moving forward, or what is moving me forward. And also there's a bit part of, making the life of other easier, which is probably, as an engineer, something that is the most rewarding of the profession, which is I build something that someone is using and they love. And it's like, it's kind of a mixed feeling, because it's no longer yours. Especially when people start using it for use cases that you didn't thought about it. But also it's like, it's bigger than me. Now it's bigger than me.
yeah,
So it's kind of a mix of these two things: helping others to make the daily life easier, and also, breaking barriers.
that's really cool to hear. It's it's really interesting to hear what drives people, and that helps me understand what drives you and what helps you decide on things. With this discovery, was there something that just boiling it down to a moment, or was there a single moment or a feeling that you got where you thought, because I think it's when when you're inventing or engineering, you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before, and you can do a lot of things that haven't been done before, and in some cases they haven't been done for a reason, because they're not useful, or they're just not not desirable by enough people, or but in this case you stumbled on or thought or felt your way into a situation where it seems that not only had it not been done before, but it was also something that people found desirable. But you only
Mm,
really get to find out whether they want it after having made it and put it out there, and then you get the feedback. And I'd love to ask you more about that experience too. But in the beginning of it, something has to give you that confidence to
yeah.
put you plus maybe other people's plus some money, all of that like effort from January to September. There's a lot of
Mm,
faith in that, and was there something that gave you that sense that like, no, this is one of those rare moments where I'm going to go all in?
mm.
um
So I would say that moment actually happened. I'm talking now September 2022, from September 2022 to February 2023, because I said this was part of a research center. We were doing this. We have kind of the freedom to do all of this, to do all these tests, and we have the intuition, but still the thing. this moment, but this change of okay, we have to go full in this is was this moment in September because we got a lot of people interested, but it was still a LinkedIn post with some people saying they want to try that, etc. This is gonna change, but you also know LinkedIn, so sometimes these things happen. LinkedIn and social media in general, there is a lot of hype, a lot of people saying that's great, but from that to the moment someone wants to pay for it, there's a big gap.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was that moment when we kind of have that intuition of, hey, let's go for it. And what it was a small toy prototype, it became our first MVP with a small web platform and the first plugin that can be used also for people that don't were in that time and probably remember, we were using our Nerf implementation, but then you have Nerf Studio out there. So what we did is, okay, why don't we try to migrate everything from Nerf Studio so everyone that's using Nerf Studio can use it? So it was kind of doing everything from bottom up again, knowing already what we already know, but trying to make it, more product oriented and scalable. And it was only 5 months with Christmas in the middle. So it was a fun time. But as I said, we were driven by that intuition of, hey, this is A, doable, and this is B, useful for people. And yeah, it turned out very well.
Tell me about the intuition. How do you know what is intuition?
That's a good question. So
Because we
kind
have
of
we have
feel so.
thought, and there's
mm,
like
mm,
thinking and processing on
mm.
ideas or knowledge. But what's you mentioned the word intuition, which I really have explored and believe in a lot, and I think
Mm.
it's a very powerful signal. What does it? What does your intuition show up like?
So I think it's a mix of rational and emotional. So that we have positive signals on the market, that was the rational side. But also, if you put on a lever on a balance the positive and negative signals, or the odds or the negative odds, probably they are equal. They were equal at that time, but there was something inside me and inside the team that we said, okay, that make us say, but this is gonna work. Like, even though this is completely balanced, this are gonna win at the end. I don't know how to explain
What
that
does that
because
feel like? What does it feel
mm,
like? Because I think it's
it's
something that
true.
can help every single
I
person on the earth.
I think I was extremely motivated, like extremely motivated. Like, when usually when you're in a project, use a project and it happens nowadays, and you are going to launch something new, it's like, okay, will it work? Will it not work? Or sometimes you don't feel like you will like to work in that, or maybe work for so long. But in that, I remember that time we were extremely motivated working no matter what, and also any, you know, because we were working also with some people helping us on the go-to-market and market intelligence section. And when they were saying like, okay, these are the odds of this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. It was like we were like, when you're playing Mario Bros. And then you get the star and you're invincible, something like that. That was the feeling. We were very extremely motivated and headed towards the goal, and it was like a vision. Like, we should go there, and we will set there what's happened, but we are sure that that's gonna be good.
So it sounds like something more magical than just analyzing a bunch of stats from your marketing team. It
Definitely.
was like a feeling. Did your biology kind of give you some
Mm,
sort of signal or some kind of excitement around it that was different than other
definitely.
things?
Yeah, because I think, for example, if you talk now about AI, everyone will say, "Oh, AI is going to change the world, so let's invest in that." It's like an easy, wait, no, it's not an easy investment, but obviously low risk, low reward. I think all the risk investment and all the new companies, all the big companies are basing something like that. Because even though you can try to the risk things and try, look at the global market, look how it's growing, look what are the needs, the value proposition, etc. All these tools that are built in order to measure the potential of a company. I think at the very beginning there is a bit of this magical, intuition, this magical feeling. Because I mean, if something is really easy to see on the stats, everyone will do that. unless you have, I don't know, privileged information, etc. So I have no explanation of why is that and why it happened to certain people or certain not. Maybe it's just be on the right spot at the right time. But yeah, definitely there is something that I cannot explain why it's happened, but it happened, and definitely makes a difference.
Well, thank you for exploring it and taking a minute to cook on that, because I think it's one of the best drivers I've found in life, and more rational tends to not result in a magical ending. Maybe a good one, but like the intuition for me has always
Yeah.
been this incredible signal, which is I spent my whole life trying to figure out how to listen to it, what it is different than certain other signals like the marketing figures or whatever else. Can you tell us a little bit about Gaussian splats? What's the like one sentence easy layperson's explanation of what that is? Because many people I think still don't totally know.
Okay. So really easy. Gaussian splats are a new way of representing 3D that is thought, that is designed for capturing reality and not modeling it, not creating it. So what does this mean? Usually with polygons 3D, it was created on that time to have an artist modeling the wall and creating the wall, and not only creating the real wall, but also, fiction walls, animation, etc. But that make polygons a little bit less or less powerful, less useful for capturing the real world or real world. Gaussian splats, leveraging machine learning, I don't want to go very technical, allows us to actually, from images or videos of a specific location, of a specific environment, create a 3D model that we can use on real time, on different tools, etc.
So tell us about Valinga and the 3D Gaussian splat world that you represent with Volinga, and what it's doing, what it can do, and how it helps filmmakers or other industries too, I'm sure.
Sure. So at Valinga, we're trying to do, and we started doing this with Nerf and now with Gaussian splats. At this moment, at this level, let's say both are the same thing. We can later discuss what is the difference between both. But what we try to do always is to democratize them, to make this technology accessible for professionals, and also to evolve the technology so it can cover all the needs in the different industries. So with the products we have right now, a professional can, as I said, capture a specific location using images or videos. It takes some time to learn how to do that, but it's much easier, much more forgiving than photogrammetry. So for example, in the user process with the clients, it takes around 1-2 weeks for the team, for a completely non-skilled team on 3D, because if the team is coming from photogrammetry, they really understand nerves and Gaussian splats really easy to learn how to capture them. And the good thing is that you can capture with any camera, any light conditions, any effects, smoke, reflection, mirror, night. So it's much more robust than traditional 3D. And the particularity with Valinga in Gaussian splats is that we also support professional pipelines like ACES pipeline, ACES workflows that are very important in the media entertainment industry. And then once you have built or created your 3D Gaussian splat model with our tool for this 3D Gaussian splat model, it's called Valinga Suite. You can export that into an Unreal Engine plugin, which, as I said, has evolved from 2 years ago, and now it's much more robust. And we have built this plugin to support all the functionalities for virtual production. So as I said, we have ACES workflow, but also it works with N-Display, it works with VCam. We are in support for virtual reality for virtual scouting precision. And also we have support with lights in Unreal. You can change lights, apply post process, depth of field, etc. So basically, Our goal at the end of the day is to make you feel that you're working with a traditional 3D asset, but that is 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, and much more photorealistic. Um, we are still working on it. There are some limitations still, like edition or physics, that still you cannot interact with these elements. But our goal is that. So our goal at the end of the day is Gaussian splat are not are not going to replace 3D or traditional 3D in all their aspects, because there are a lot of reasons why you will still use traditional 3D. But for the majority of them, like, beta production, for a specific reallocation, reshoots, retakes, mm, driving scenes, for example, all of these are very convenient to be, or Gaussian splat are very convenient to be used. So I didn't want this to make this as using another 3D asset, but that is much better for this specific use case.
Great. And somebody asked a question here from the studio. Would love to hear an overview of the process of creating splats, whether it be using an Unreal Engine or what software equipment is involved in making them.
Okay. So as I said, we're going to split this in two main parts: creating the splats and rendering them. And then inside the creation, I'm going to split this into 4 different steps. The first one is the capture. As I said, you can capture with any camera. Actually, phone cameras, especially the latest smartphones that also support HDR, are really convenient. But you can also go with drones, you can go with DLSR. There's no limitation in that side. And as I said, you can capture from images or videos. You will train. So also, the process, I would say probably train a Gaussian splat. That's exactly the same as saying creating the Gaussian splats or optimizing the Gaussian splats. So basically, the process of getting the images and creating a 3D model using 3 Gaussian splatting. So as I said, you can train the 3 Gaussian splats from images, but if you have a video, at the end of the day, you have a set of still images that are 30 frames per second, etc. Also, now you can add LiDAR. So for example, you can combine, you can align your images and your LiDAR data in reality capture. So summarizing, on the capture side, you can use almost any camera, but trying to have enough resolution. So usually 1080 is okay, but if you want to go for professional, 4K is recommended. And avoiding especially dynamic changes. So that means, for example, an object moving, changes in lights, I don't know, a cloud just moving and occluding the sun. So everything that can be dynamic and that can change your environment from one image to the other, you want to avoid that. And also, you want to have your pixels as sharp as possible. So you want to avoid motion blur, you want to avoid out of focus regions. That's the most important part on the capture. And then after capturing, and before creating your Gaussian splat, you have to do one thing that I slightly said in a moment, which is camera alignment. This means for your Gaussian splat creation, you have to know where your cameras are located in the space, the 3D location of your cameras and its orientation in the wall. So this is usually done in the traditional open source wall with ColdMap, with a software called ColdMap. But also our solution, and I know all the solutions in the industry, supports doing that with commercial softwares like Reality Capture or Metashape. And as I said, the good thing about Reality Capture and Metashape, they are commercial, they are faster, they usually allow you to have more control, but also it allows you to include, for example, LiDAR data. I will say in a second why LiDAR data is convenient if you are looking for some specific needs. But yeah, let's say once you have your images and you know where the camera is located in the wall and the orientation, you can train your Gaussian splats. So I'm going to stop here a second to understand what a Gaussian splat is, in a more technical way. So a Gaussian is nothing more than a sphere that has been skewed differently in the 3 axes. So you can think it as a rugby ball or American football ball. Internally at VOLINGA, funny enough, we usually refer to them as potatoes. So you can think of it as a potato. But the thing is that what you're going to try to do is locating enough potatoes in the enough splats in the wall to match the geometry of that wall. But also these splats are have a color. So what you're gonna try to do is assign the specific color to each splat to match your real wall from your images. But not only this, what it makes sure it's also very powerful is that this color is not constant. So this means it's called it's called view dependent color. So this means that depending from the point of view that where you're looking the splat at, the color will change. Probably not drastically, probably just a little bit. But for example, if you are looking at a reflexive surface, it can change drastically. But at the end of the day, the process of training a Gaussian splat is the process of using machine learning for optimizing, understanding where do you have to locate your splats in order to match the geometry, and what color and what view dependent color do they need to have in order to match what you are seeing from your images. So as I said, this happened from your images, but on the camera alignment process, you also generate what is called a sparse point cloud. This means the software you're using, either Colmap, Reality Capture, or Metashape, will find correspondences between the images, will create points, and then as a result, you have a small sparse point cloud with all these points. If you're using a LiDAR, though, as you may imagine, you will have a much dense point cloud that is geometrically accurate. Also, the scale will be accurate and will help the Gaussian splat a lot, especially on flat surfaces with no texture, which, contrary what you will think, because they are like easy surfaces to model, are really not difficult to solve, but splats are cheaters. So if you have a flat white wall like the one I have on the back, it won't be optimized to make a complete flat wall, because there are so many possible solutions to match what you are seeing that it will just try to optimize and get whatever solution, the easier solution.
Right.
So for the LiDAR will help you in all of this. And then finally, that's the first step. The first step is edition. So there are some tools like SuperSplat then that you can use in order to edit your splats. That means you can have some artifacts, you can have elements that you don't want to be there. I don't know, let's say you have a table that you don't want to be there, or you just want to have the splat of a specific object and you capture a full environment. So that will be the first step. That is an optional one. That is the full step or the full process for creation: capture, camera alignment, the splat training, Gaussian splat training, and edition. And then with these splats, you need to render them using a specific engine, a specific software. In our case, we do have our own software to render, but mainly it's like a small editor where you can combine different splats together. But as I said, our main rendering software, our main rendering way is the plugin to Unreal. So as this basically is not very complicated, as we're trying to make this as simple as possible. So what you would need to do is just download a plugin, install it in Unreal, and drag and drop the splat as any other 3D asset, put it on your viewport, and then you will start seeing it. You will see how it reacts to lights, etc. So I said there are still some limitations, like for example, physics or shadows are not always very, very accurate. But that will be the full process from creating a splat to actually rendering it on Unreal Engine.
Amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about what Valinga can do. I know there's probably 8 podcasts worth of things that we could talk about with how they work. And thank you for explaining that. I think a lot of people don't sort of understand it, but that definitely helps with a lot of detail on how they work. What can Valinga do? What can Splats do? And then maybe that might lead into what do we want them to be able to do in the future? But what can we do right now with Valinga in Unreal with Gaussian Splat?
So, for example, one of the things you would like to do, well, let's say functionality-wise, as I said, you can render them, you can add lights, you can combine them with 3D elements. All the tools, all the suite from Unreal for virtual production works. So, for example, one of the main use cases is virtual pre-production, so previs. So, for example, because this is really, really easy to capture the environment, now, Epic has been behind this a lot of time, but you have this small piece missing, which is okay, if I want to do previs of an environment, I have to create a 3D digital twin of that environment, and this is very costly. Now it does. It is not. So you can actually capture, for example, 3D environment where you're gonna shoot, locate some 3D elements, some meta humans pretending to be your actors, and just play with it on VCam. All things that another really good use case are for retakes and reshoots. So at the end of the day, this is like a backup because now everything orbits around now 3D is much easier to be made. So, for example, we have some clients that are using Volinga only as a backup in the sense of they usually do sitcoms on specific locations where they have the ability to capture these sets, and then usually in post-production when they have to do a retake, instead of building up again the whole set or bringing the actors from A location to B location, they just move into a virtual production studio and they have the set as it was during the shoot, perfectly ready. And finally, this is kind of a similar use case, but with a small tweak, which is for marketing and promote materials. We are tired of seeing, actors talking and being interviewed on just, green screen or these director's chairs, etc., but with nothing to do in the background, nothing that has to do with the show. What they are doing is because they are already capturing this environment as a backup. When they have to do the promo material and the promo shoot with the actors, they just bring them into a virtual production to a LED wall, and they shoot pretending they actually created those interviews and those materials where they were shooting the show, which usually is not the case. Then you can think about other cases which I like in a more conceptual way, like for visualization, for example, for arc-based architectural visualization, there are some of the users that what they are doing is capturing the surroundings of a new building that is going to be built, and then they add the 3D of that building that is usually designed it's from the architectural firm, etc. And the cool thing is that you can see aesthetically how this building is going to look with its surrounding. But not only that, you can even see from each of the apartments that are going to be built what are the views that you are going to have from the window, which I think is really cool if you want to sell the apartments before being built. So yeah, these are the kind of things you can already do with our technology.
Another question that's come in here from the audience is somebody's wanting to understand your thoughts on, and this maybe is two questions, but one part of it is about 4D Gaussian splats, so essentially animation or moving splats. And then the other question is really around ray tracing integration for advanced lighting, whether that's integrating with having shadows from the splat onto the scene, or I guess have tracing against the scene. There's like 8 questions in this one. They also ask about AR, VR, and volumetric capture, but maybe we can focus on the 4D or moving splats, and then the ray tracing or lighting integration.
So the 4D splats are actually a really hot topic. We are not actively working on it at the moment because there are a lot of things to work on it, but I know there is a really good company called Gaussian AI that are actually specialized on that. The main problem for 4D Gaussian splat is that they are, adding an extra dimension. If you think, our brain will think, okay, we are working on 3 dimension, so if we make this 4 dimension, it's just, multiplying this by 33%. But it's not, because actually it's not a multiplication, but it's actually a power. So 4D is much more complicated than 3D. Having said that, we have 2 versions of 4D. The one that you can call this inward facing or object entry, so basically using camera rigs to capture human performance. There's a lot of use cases. That is, as I said, Gaussian AI, for example, is one of the companies working on it, and it's something that is starting to be solved, even though there is still a lot of issues, especially regarding compression, how these things are going to be sent, because splats are not heavy, but 4D splats, because there is no compression algorithm yet, and everything is very early still, they are really, really heavy. So if we want to, we want to use 4D Gaussian splat in a production, we have to think about how we're gonna store it, how we're gonna version it, how
Yeah.
how all this gonna work, having a, I don't know, 15 gigabytes asset that is just
Yeah.
one capture. And then you have the other way, like trying to capture dynamism from our environment. So, for example, one of the main limitations with Gaussian plans are vegetation on windy days. If you want to capture, I don't know, a place with some trees and there's wind, you better not try it because you will probably have blurry artifacts around the tree leaves. So this is a much more complicated because problem because on the previous one you have one observation per per moment in time per time in the space. But now what you're going to have in this in this other problem is okay, just one single camera at each point in time. So this is still very early. We are trying to solve it using, so instead of capturing the movement, trying to add the movement afterwards, that is easier than capturing, but there's still some research to be done there. Then
Yeah.
regarding ray tracing, there is a really good paper from NVIDIA. That's I don't remember the name, but they recently released it, which already allows for ray tracing and also allows for reflection, etc. You can kind of trick those effects already, for example, in a plugin without using ray tracing, because the problem with ray tracing is that it's very compute expensive. And as you may imagine, Unreal has a lot of tricks to avoid that and to avoid ray tracing, but make things look as it is ray tracing. So on our side, because we are focusing real-time applications, we are trying to go that way, which is let's try to make these tricks to make it look as good as possible without the need of ray tracing. But this does not mean that it's possible, that is impossible. For example, NVIDIA just released a paper and a work around that. And I think the code is open source, so everyone can use it. So yeah. And then I'm saying regarding AR and virtual reality, I know there are some works there, but we are actually working on that, actively working on that, especially on Unreal Engine. So hopefully after the summer, we have something that we can share.
Amazing. We're looking forward to that for sure. And there's something I know in the in the green room before the show, we were talking a little bit about the inevitable question that is always going to come up in any podcast interview show or anything today, which is about AI and particularly generative AI. What are your thoughts on? Because, well, I'm trying to think of the right question to ask about it because there's so many possible ones. What are your thoughts on generative AI involving splats, making splats, or let's say start with that?
Okay, so talking only about the technical aspect, because there is a whole world of ethical aspect and
Sure.
behind generative AI. Talking only about the technical aspect, I think they actually match really good and they complement each other. So, for example, we are starting to see the video generation models. I think they are still not there, but not really far from being able to generate 3D environments that are consistent and that you can use to train a splat. So, you have this kind of actually, this is I think you already mentioned this on the VP Land podcast, but this kind of limitations with generative AI where uh, you cannot control it at all. But while with the splats, the problem is how you create them, because if you want a splat of a forest, you have to go to a forest and capture it. But if you combine both of them, you don't need full control on the generative model in order to train a splat. You just need it to be, you know, static, not dynamism on the scene, but also to have enough parallax and 3D consistency. So that is like something that I think will start happening sooner than later. And that's gonna be like the next step in world creation. And having an environment and especially for commercials, etc. Say I want a forest in this way, or I want to be on Mars, and then you have a spot of Mars. That probably is very difficult to achieve unless you are Elon Musk. So that's on the first steps, but then you can think of, okay, how do we go further? Because you will probably limit it to a specific region of that imaginary world. And I think as we are creating more and more 3D data, more and more splats, we will start seeing how probably in a couple of years from now, we'll start getting models and algorithms that are able to generate splat from text, which is like, jumping this step in the middle. And that allows you to not only to have this as a background, but to have a full immersive world where you can move. And I know there are some startups that are already working at this, like World Labs, for example. And I think that's gonna be the short term or the midterm if we'll talk about 2 years from now, because now with AI, 2 years is midterm and 6 months is short term. So yeah, probably that's how it's gonna evolve.
And that presumably that's coming, that work that's being done is in the training, because you have to train a machine learning algorithm or neural net on Gaussian splats directly to text, the relationship between those two. So it
Yeah.
requires a lot of.
So I think the main research here will be how to avoid doing that, because the problem is
Okay,
that no
it's
one is
hard.
gonna
Yeah,
have exactly no, unless you start doing a really really big effort. No one is going to have enough Gaussian splats to train such a big model. So I think the question, probably leveraging existing splats, the question will be, okay, how do we train a model that understand what a splat is without seeing one, and apply everything that we know from images to apply this or to create these splats without having a huge database of splats. Because I mean, the amount of data you need to train an image model and a video model is huge. And I don't see us getting that big or getting a database that big using splats in, I don't know, 10, 20 years. I would love it, but I don't think that's something that is going to happen.
right. Yeah, it's a
Mm.
very interesting problem space, and I'm without obviously having a crystal ball. It's interesting to hear your thoughts on where this stuff is going. Obviously, you guys are working on shaping that from your
Mhm.
perspective. What else are you seeing in the AI space in terms of, or where you would perhaps like it to go? Again, the moral side of it is always up for debate, and it will continue. But on the technical side, let's say,
Mm. So I think one of one concept that I'm particularly interested about, and we're just working on a small piece that hopefully will make it happen, is memory. So if you think about this, splats or 3D representation are kind of memories that could be stored and probably are much more efficient than storing videos, storing data, storing etc. I'm saying that's basically for the next step, which won't be just AI, but it will be also robots and robotics. So if you think about how our brain works, you usually learn from experience, but also you try to recreate something you did and think about what would have happened if I did this different. And you learn about that. And also you try to forecast, okay, I'm going to do this, which I did before. So what is going to happen when I turn on the corner? You're going from point A to point B. I have gone before. What's going to happen when I turn on the corner? And what's going to happen if I turn the corner in a different way, which you cannot represent that with a video. But with splats or radiance field, you can. So I'm particularly interested in how this is going to evolve, because it will be one of the main pieces that is missing in order to have not only AI agents working, but also robots, intelligent robots walking down the street and hopefully helping us and making our life easier.
what are some of the things that you're seeing from the community that you work with, your clients, your friends, colleagues, collaborators, that they're using this technology for? You
Mm.
mentioned some of it in architectural visualization and virtual production and those kinds of things. What are some of the things people are wanting from it, or wanting it to be able to do?
So one of I mean, we got a lot of questions about video games. I think
Yeah.
we are still not there, but I hope in the short term, as I said, so probably before 2 years, we are ready to have splats in a video game. Right now, what we are missing is two main things: physics, which is partially solved, and then to make this run on hardware that is not from NVIDIA, basically, which is also partially solved. But now you have to put everything together, make it robust, and make sure this run on a Nintendo Switch, which is kind of the standard for video games. So I think we got a lot of questions and interest from video games, and I think this probably is gonna change a lot the video game industry, especially those games that try to be realistic, first-person shooters or sport games, etc. And yeah, hopefully in the short term we can already say to all this community, hey, you can already use it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting to hear that, and it's obviously going to be fascinating seeing how being an artist slash engineer who's gone through a couple of careers already, and still passionate about the art side of it. And here we are talking about AI and about capturing the real world and about making up worlds that don't exist. What do you think is the future for? You don't have to answer this absolutely, because I know nobody can. But what do you think is the future of being an artist with this material? Because often artists want to create something and then sit there and refine it for some time, be able to art direct
But
it or finesse it. What do you see as the future of that?
so I think on the one hand, what we are trying to do and all the tools are trying to do is allow for the artist to have the same amount of freedom that you have with the 3D models, which is difficult, and that's probably one of the missing topics in Gaussian Splats. But I know there are a lot of research going on, and probably we'll see some better tools in the short future. So I think that's the first step. So at the end of the day, our ambition is to make the work of the artist easier and just remove the boring part and remove the retopology and remove just cleaning meshes or retexturing, etc., and just go straight to the fun part. But also, I like to see that for pure 3D, let's call this pure 3D or polygons. Um, I'm curious to see what happened with all this new way of 3D capturing, because I like to make the parallelism with cameras, and then you can see how traditional painting completely changed once it was no longer not worth, but it was no longer difficult to get something that is really realistic, because everyone with a camera can do that. So I wonder how this is going to evolve, in the sense of when everyone can create traditional 3D, photoreal 3D, and that's something that's taken for granted. Probably, I think 3D artists are going to start exploring new ways of expressing themselves, which is, for some of them, I understand at the beginning will be something that is not very comfortable. But I also think that going outside the comfort zone and exploring all these new ways, and I know there are already a lot of artists out there actually exploring these new ways. That's also going to happen. So I think we're going to change both sides: the way photoreal 3D is created, making it easier and fun, and also the way non-photoreal 3D is created, which I hope we make the inspiration of these artists, growth and start exploring new ideas, etc.
Awesome. Is it okay if we go over by a few minutes? Because I still have one or two questions left.
Sure.
The one I'd love to hear I'd love to hear more about the Auschwitz scanning project. If you can give that to everybody. They've done an incredible scan of Auschwitz, and I know that Fernando, you were involved. Love to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. So this project was led by our colleague Maciek in Poland, and also was led by the Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation. The project was called Picture from Auschwitz. The thing, I think this problem with Auschwitz happened with a lot of places, not only Auschwitz, but also natural places, etc., where on the one side, you don't want the place to be disturbed by a whole crew shooting there, everything that happens during filmmaking. You don't want to stop people from going there for whatever time you need in order to shoot this crew. But also you want this place, especially Auschwitz, which is has a very big historic value and something that is, at the end of the day, remind us of what happened in the past, so we prevent it to happen in the future. So you have this trade-off of, not making it easier to shoot there or to create documentaries, film, etc. there, but also you want to foster it because you want not only, for example, Steven Spielberg could not shoot there on the Schindler's List, but probably they have enough budget to recreate all the locations. But let's say you are an indie filmmaker that have a really good project about Auschwitz and would like to use it. It will be very hard. So this project, the goal of this project is, okay, now we have new 3D technology that, as I said, can capture much faster and requires less involved or less involucration from the location part, but can create an actual really good photoreal model. So the goal was to try to shoot this. Actually, it happened during New Year's because Auschwitz museum is closed. So they capture everything in one day. And I know they previewed that, I don't remember the exact date, but on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And recently, at the end of May, beginning of June, they make it public and they saw the project. So what they have now in the picture, in the Auschwitz Foundation are some 3D GS from some specific parts of the concentration camp because it's huge. But you have, for example, the most iconic one, like the gate of where you see Albert McFry, etc., that can be licensed at no cost. Of course, you have to submit a form and explain what is your project because they want to have some control on what projects are being created with them. But now everyone can shoot in Auschwitz, which I think is great because probably this will foster, as I said, a lot of projects that are based on that horrible moment in history. But at the end of the day, are both to educate and also to tell histories. That is what they want at the end. So, as I said, you can use it for virtual production, but I know they also want this to be used for education, museums, etc. So I think this is a great example, a really good example of how this new technology is going to allow us to protect locations while that's still spreading the word and showing them and using it in stories. Same thing here applies to any historic places, applies to natural environments. For example, we are Valinga is based in the Canary Islands, which is a really nice place. A lot of films and productions are done here because of the variety of environments. But there are starting to be some restrictions because also there are natural places that you cannot disrupt. So I think this project is a perfect example of how now this technology have a minimum disruption while allowing almost all the flexibility you will have on the real location.
Wow, amazing, very important, and educational storytelling is the basis of humanity in so many ways, and art being a way of describing that. It's really how we pass ideas across from one generation to the next, and experientially is the most impactful way to do it. It's not so easy to travel around the world to see all of these places, and it's being able to explore them is the most impactful way of exploring them. So it's a very important project, and I thank you for being a part of it and doing what you've done to share that with the world. It's very important.
Thank you. Great.
So lastly, I just wanted to ask, well, firstly, if there's anything else that you would like to share. I know that we will share links to Valinga and anything you'd like to share about yourself or places that people can follow you. I also want to give you this moment for the tribute for your friend as well.
Sure. So, well, on the one hand, thank you very much for having me, Ed. You can find me at LinkedIn, Fernando Rivas-Manzaneque, as you see on my title. Also, VOLINGA.ai. We have a test version, we have test assets. Everyone can test Valinga, and also we are very active both on Discord, LinkedIn, and on a web form. If you have some problem, you need some help, or you have just questions, just reach out, and we're always happy to help. And then, as you said, unfortunately, a good friend of mine, James Bellman, who was also a big contributor to Radiance Field community in the code. He was since the very beginning the starting of Nerve, working in this area. He left. I remember he left his job as a web developer because he was really passionate about this technology and how it's gonna change the world. He developed his own open source framework, TurboNerve, and also more personally, he was a really good friend. He helped us a lot with Volinga.
Please share his name again.
Yeah, James Bellman. He passed away on Monday, and yeah, I just wanted to take this moment to make a tribute for him because I think it's one of these names that the people that are there knows what he has done for the community and for the technology, but not everyone knows what is his work, and usually these names can or become anonymous in the history. So we're gonna miss him a lot, but I'm glad that I can also share what he has done already, and we'll keep doing. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and we're happy to share his name. Anything else that we can share about his work too. But yeah, big respect and tribute to your friend. Thank you for sharing that as well. Well, thank you, Fernando. That was an emotional end to a wonderful conversation. I know that there's at least several more podcasts worth of things that I want to ask you. But congrats on Valinga, and thank you very much for being a part of today's podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ed. I really enjoy it. And of course, very happy to come back here and keep talking about everything else.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure by the next time, even if it was in 1 week, the world will be different and we'll have lots to talk
Definitely.
about. But yeah, thank you. And thanks also to our audience today for coming in and asking great questions and stimulating a great conversation as well. We'll be back in another 2 weeks with our next guest. And join us this week for our open day if you would like to come and hang out and ask more questions. And we'll see you all again soon. Keep working on your skills, keep making great art and pushing things forwards. We can all do this together, and we're all finding out how it goes. So we'll see you all soon. Take care, everybody.